Hello and welcome back to It's Queer Magic. It's me, Kirbo, and I am here to tell you happy autumn and happy Libra season. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, we've just had the autumnal equinox, and I'm so excited. As you know, if you've been watching, you know I've already decided it was autumn well before it was. So I'm very excited to be here. And I'm also very excited to bring you this reading today, this video. We're in week D of the alphabet superset that we've been participating in, and it just so perfectly aligns with the beginning of Libra season. And what do? We do divination. Divination, Libra season. It's time to look in to the future. It's time to look into the energy of how we can harness this season to be the best version of ourselves and to navigate the changes with ease and with grace. I've already pulled the cards, as you can see, they're on the table, and I'd like to jump in with you. So, and by the way, I'm using the Ostara Tarot deck, just so you know. I know that it's not Ostara, but that is just the name of the deck. It can be used all year round. So we had a couple of jumpers. We have two jumpers, and I want to start with that because I feel like they are really at the core of the energy of this season. And they are the Wheel of Fortune and the Devil. Wanted to make sure it was upright. The Wheel of Fortune and the Devil. And I think that this is a really encouraging pair of cards, although I see and recognize that it could be frustrating as well. Because the Wheel of Fortune says, it says, who knows? It says it's up to fate. It says things are changing and you are not going to be able to anchor into something in the future that is going to feel certain. You're not going to be able to anchor down into something for the future, whether it is your desire, whether it's your goals for healing or your relationships or your money or whatever it is that you're working on. You are not going to be able to root down into it and feel sure. It does not mean that you're not going to get what you want. It doesn't mean that the energies aren't aligning in order to literally get you where you want to go. What it does mean is that it's not going to feel that way. And it's really nice to receive this kind of message ahead of time because it really gives you something to hold on to remind yourself in those moments where things are changing and they may look on the outside like something that you don't want or would not have asked for. And the shame and fear inside of you are going to take that opportunity, that moment of fear and of doubt, which is fine. Like, you're allowed to doubt things. It's not like I'm not here to villainize doubt. But the shame is going to utilize that moment to make a lot of noise and say, are you sure? Are you sure you can have this? Who are you to ask for these things? I feel like the devil means a lot of things. There's a lot of things that we could talk about. But in this moment, I really feel like it's talking about negative self-talk. It's talking about the ways that we keep ourselves bound up in chains in our head and in our heart. It's talking about the ways that we are not on our own side, that we fight against ourselves and do not let ourselves have what we want. And the devil and the Wheel of Fortune together, I think, really tell me that in this season coming forward, you are going to have to face that doubt. You are going to have to face that fear and that shame that says, see, you were foolish to want this thing. Look at this is changing. It's not what you wanted. It's not what you meant to happen. And there's no way it could be taking you where you want to go. So this is an invitation to hate yourself. This is an invitation to stuff down all those hopes and dreams and to throw in the towel and give up. That's what you're facing. And with those cards on the table, it says that we can expect that sensation, right? We can expect that emotional experience. And because we can expect it, we can also arm ourselves with what we need to witness, engage with, and ultimately overcome that kind of voice in our heads, that kind of thinking, that kind of energy that bubbles up, the part of us that is still so afraid that we'll never be happy and still so afraid that we were never worth anything to begin with and we're just never going to get what we want because the world is crashing and burning and that's it. And if people are suffering more than me, I'll never be happy. And it's true that things are complicated. It's true that we are in unprecedented times when it comes to pain and suffering. And it's true that there are people suffering worse than you. But it cannot be true that they deserve well-being and you don't. It doesn't work that way. As much as you'd like it to work that way, it doesn't work that way. If we're looking at a world that we're trying to build that is equitable, that has well-being for all, right? That has everyone in the highest and best expression of themselves. It includes being good to yourself. It includes you, whoever you are, also going after your dreams and experiencing the fruits of your labor. So we look at Libra season coming up, and with these two cards, we say, no matter what changes, I know that I, one, have myself and can take care of it. I can actively pour love and pour care over my own life because I'm not in control here, but I am in charge. You're not in charge of what happens. Again, you're not in control. Things are going to be changing around you. The wheel is going to be spinning. But when the wheel spins, you have the invitation to come into the center so you don't experience the sheer velocity of the spinning of it, so that you are centered and moving slower than on the outsides. You're not going to get whiplash. And for me, in my real life, when I get the Wheel of Fortune and the invitation is to come to the center, what that actually means is to care for the small things. What am I doing to make sure that I am who I want to be, that I am the version of myself on the outside that I feel like I am or want to be on the inside? How am I sleeping? How am I eating? Am I drinking water? Am I feeding my brain? Am I feeding my heart? Am I feeding my creative spirit? What are my needs? And can I make sure that I'm meeting them? And everything that I can handle, I handle, and everything else I surrender, because that's all there is to be done. That's all that's possible. Remember that Libra is cardinal air. This is the beginning, right? This is the fresh breeze that blows through the still earth and really sort of takes away all of the leaves of the trees that are dead, that are dying, that are ready to fall to the ground and fertilize the growth of the new season, right? It is the trees like take the energy from these leaves, and then the first breeze of the season comes through to shake them off of the tree, right? This is that. Don't fight the decay, right? Don't fight the things that are actively dying inside of you or outside of you, because the most loving thing we can do to something that is dying is let it die. I mean, obviously that's not like great advice across all boards, but I'm not here to talk about literally every circumstance ever. But what I'm talking about is something that is in its natural cycle, in its ebb. Flow has happened, it's ebbing, it happens, that's the cycle. As within, so without, as above, so below. Things inhale and exhale, they live and then they die. And when we are at that place, its natural conclusion, the loving thing that we can do is to let it die with honor, with grace, with love, with care, but we let it go, right? And I'm not talking about losing people. I'm talking about seasons in your life coming to an end, possibly desires that you've had for a long time suddenly feeling not so desirable. And it could make you feel like you're losing yourself, like you don't know who you are. But don't forget that this is an air sign. Libra is an air sign. There is going to be other information. You're going to be woken up as you are being sort of shaken loose of the dead pieces. It's not springtime energy necessarily, but it is the beginning of the process of revitalization, which is death in a lot of cases. I want to move on to the actual spread. Those were just the jumpers. There's information here and I want to get to it. So we have the theme of the month in the King of Wands. We're being asked to lean in to the Queen of Pentacles and lean out of the Hierophant. And this has been following me. If you're on my Patreon, you know that we have been leaning out of the Hierophant for sort of like weeks now. The Hierophant has been in a position of, this is less important. Don't do it exactly this way for like a while. So that is not surprising to see. And a hopeful message for the future is the Magician. The King of Wands, in its journey to standing up off of that throne and taking action and doing what it is that they need to do, right? They take a moment to recognize that they are a trailblazer, and that means that you must find your unique way to engage in the world around you, to engage in the desire that you have. It requires a moment to connect to those desires. And the King of Wands is not afraid. It's not really about not being afraid. I want to take that back because I don't actually believe that. It's not about not being afraid. It's about not letting being afraid stop you. The King of Wands in this moment really feels like there's so much this month that we are going to be able to uncover about the truth of our desire, that we are going to sort of wake up to about the truth of what it is that we actually want to be doing, because circumstances keep changing. And when the circumstances change, we change. And it doesn't serve anyone to sort of sit and pout at the changing of the circumstances. You can feel how you're going to feel. You should. I mean, feeling your feelings is a good thing. But letting it stop you from moving and stop you from changing and stop your desire from blooming and shifting and evolving is to let yourself rot. And that's not what we want. You are still alive and it's not time to rot. The King of Wands here really feels like you're finally accepting that the way that you are going to get where you want to go is just not going to look like everyone else's. It's just not going to look like the plan that you made a while ago when you were 9, when you were 16, when you were 18. You're letting the vision that the child version of you had not hold you back anymore. And you're recognizing that they are alive in you, but you are here. You are the one that gets to decide what it is that you want. And you might be letting your own self down by not recognizing that there are other things that you're interested in, not recognizing that there are other things that you want. Leaning in to the Queen of Pentacles really backs up that what to do when the Wheel of Fortune is spinning energy. What to do when the Wheel of Fortune is spinning, you come to the center. The Queen of Pentacles is a master caregiver, not just a caregiver, but a caretaker. It's about caring for the body. It's about caring for your resources. It's about caring for the mundane physical manifestation of your actual life. So it answers a lot of those questions. It says, or asks the same questions, it says, are you eating enough? Are you sleeping enough? What do we have to change to get there? What do we have to change? What do we have to try to let ourselves take care? And it is a care in the body, right? It is a body care, but it's also the rest of mundanity. And from my perspective, it is, sure, the body. It can be our physical things, our homes, our finances, but ultimately the original mundane thing is your life. Like if you're a spirit, you're not mundane at all. And then you get born as a human and now all of a sudden everything is the mundane part, right? Life on earth. And the Queen of Pentacles is like, what do you have to do? What kind of loving, compassionate, stable, maybe even intricate and planned out steps do you have to take? What kind of care do you have to make to actually be the person that you want to be? I'm moved to remind us that we are in the end of the Chariot year, where we're being asked to sort of grasp the reins of our lives and direct it in the direction that we want to go, to build out the vehicle of our lives as something that can possibly take us where we want to go. It's like, if I keep using the same example with this, but I love it, so I'm going to keep using it. It's like, if you want to be an artisan baker, the Chariot year says, okay, so when are you going to start baking bread? Are you going to make room for baking so that you can at some point become an artisan baker? If you have no time for baking and you're not prioritizing baking, you'll never get there. And the Chariot wants you to recognize that you've learned so much, you've done so much, you've experienced so much, and it's time to lead the charge. It's time to direct your life in the place that you want it to go. And of course, we're not in charge of everything. We're not in control of everything. There are circumstances that are absolutely outside of our control, and that's the way it's meant to be. And that doesn't even matter. You don't have to believe that that's the way it's meant to be. But what do we know? That it is what is. And there's no use in denying what is. Doesn't mean it'll be that way forever, but right now, it's what is. So if you're not in control of everything, then what else is there to do but to focus on what you can do, how you can adjust your care for yourself, how you can adjust your perspective in order to live a life that feels good, in order to live a life that feels like you are being the version of you on the inside, the ideal version of yourself that you think is the most true on the outside. That you're being honest and you are not betraying your own reality and your own truth, that you're making space for everyone else's, right? You don't bowl over people because you have a truth that is different than theirs, but you do honor your reality. When I say you don't betray yourself, I mean, if you know on the inside that it is true, that you are not a quiet person and you have so much to say, but on the outside, you stop yourself from saying it every time, that's a betrayal. That's a betrayal. If you know on the inside that you need to be seen, that you are a performer and that you have this need to express and to have people witness it, but you never let yourself try, that's a betrayal. And you can do whatever you want. This is a free will universe. You can make any choice that you want. And again, I've said this before, and I'll say it 1,000 times before, 1,000 times again. But you know how it feels to make that choice, to make that betrayal, to go in the direction of running from what is true about you on the inside. You know how that feels. And if you're fine with that, you're fine with that, and that's good. No shame, no shade, no tea. You can do whatever you want. But if you are like me, and it's not satisfying, then it's time to really lean into the care and say, I am taking care of me. I have these needs and I am going to meet them. Even if I'm starting so small, with fighting the voice in my head, with saying, oh, that is absolutely not true. It is not going to kill me to be seen because I have a need. I want it. I want to do this. So it is actually going to feel good eventually. I just have to push. I have to try. I have to surrender in the direction of what is absolutely true about me. And leaning out of the Hierophant says that you don't have to do it by the book. You don't have to do it the way that you learned it or the way that it seems that everyone else is doing it. If you have a deep call inside of you to do something in the way that is unique to you, in a way that has not been seen on this planet, I beg you to do it in that way. Nothing was the norm until we made it the norm. At some point, every norm was abnormal, was brand new, was unusual. At some point in our history, every one of our norms was like, that's weird. Maybe except for breathing. Actually, you go back far enough, ain't nobody on the land. We were all in the water. So at some point it was like, hold on, you're walking around out there? Even before that, it was like, hold on, you're going to the surface to breathe air? Actually, I think that those mammals came back to the sea, but I don't know. Let me know if you know. I would love to know. But ultimately, it was like, that's suspicious. That's weird. That's different. Okay, trailblazer, right? Maybe not explicitly in that way, but you're getting what I mean to say. And at some point, it just was not the way. Who's to say that your way won't be the norm? And it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. All that matters is that it works for you and it feels true for you. And again, the King of Wands is a master trailblazer. They push through and let this like real expression of the truth of themselves lead the way. And it's usually through, again, a place that is not a trail. It's covered and they're hacking things down to make space and everyone follows behind them, right? People follow behind you. You're doing a service. And that's another way that the kings are absolutely expressed in the world, and that the kings are sort of how you serve your community, how you serve the rest of us, how you serve the world, like how you in your truth, in your life, in your living fully embodied in the lessons of all of the other cards, how you help everyone else. And the King of Wands is someone who knows what they want, who doesn't necessarily care about getting it in the correct way or the way that everyone else has done it or the only way that seems possible. When they're pulled in another direction, they follow it because they know that that spark, that fire is what makes you conscious. It's what makes you alive. It's what makes you desire. Desire is so holy, and the King of Wands knows that, and they'll follow that path forward. And a hopeful message for the future is absolutely awesome in this case because it's the Magician. So it says in the future, like a hopeful message, all of this seems so scary, and I don't think it's going to necessarily be super easy to trust your own version of things moving forward. I don't think it's going to be super easy this Libra season to necessarily be like, this is a new way and I'm just going to do it. Like, this is my truth and my desire and it's really scary, but I'm just going to do it. Like, it is going to be something that you might have to fight for. But it's a challenge that's made for you. It's not made to break you. It's made to literally pull out courage and competence and confidence. That you can't experience those things without initiation. You need some experience that says, I went through that and I learned that I can be so brave. I learned that I can be so confident. I learned that I can be so competent, and I am competent. And the Magician says in the future, you will recognize the tools. You may not feel like you have the tools now, but at some point you will. And you will be able to channel forward the truth that you need, and you will be able to trust your own vision of the path, your own version of the path, and your own vision of the future. You'll be able to say, this is what I want, to see that's the way I'm going to get it, and to pick up all of your tools and make it happen for yourself. The card on the bottom of the deck is the Eight of Cups. Oh, like I said, some cycles are ending. Some things are over. And that is really good. The eight changes us. All of the eights change us. You go in one way and you come out of that experience changed, completely different. And it is the Eight of Cups is this, it's difficult because you literally built this thing. Like, you built all of these cups in the sand, and it's hard to walk away knowing that you will not know if they're still going to be there when you return, if you ever return, if they're going to withstand the tide that comes in. And it feels like you're giving up, but you're not giving up. You are accepting what is, and you're choosing yourself. You're choosing your future. You're choosing the highest and best experience of yourself moving forward. And it's okay to grieve those things. In fact, it's highly necessary to grieve versions of yourself that are done, pieces of your life that are being laid to rest. Because when you do, the universe doesn't like a vacuum. So when something goes, something else will take its place. And if you can uncover what that true desire is, then that very well may be the thing that the Eight of Cups, that this leaving, this letting go, is making space for. It's a wonderful Libra season. There's a lot that is so powerful and so beautiful. And I want you to know that none of this means that you're going to suffer. None of this means that you are absolutely going to have like the worst Libra season ever. No. It's, again, an air sign. This is about information. You are just going to be learning about what it is that you want and what it is that is done. And all of that to say just that simple sentence. And that means that it can be good for all of us. It is just good advice to hear that when you are struggling with doubt or negative self-talk, or struggling to let something go that you know is done, and struggling to let yourself go in the direction of what you actually currently want, that it's not intuition, that it's not a sign that it's the wrong thing or what you shouldn't be doing and that you should not try. It is just your brain fighting back, the part of your brain that is afraid of the unknown, saying, no, don't do that. Don't ever change. And that's okay. If you look closely at that voice, it's dressed in a cloak of shame. It's dressed in a cloak of fear and guilt, and those things aren't rooted in the truth. So you can do the work to uproot and extinguish the flames of shame, or you can accept that that's how you feel right now, but it does not mean that you are on the wrong path if you're following what it is that you truly want. Okay? Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you are taking care of yourself, and I hope that this was helpful. Thanks again, and I'll see you at the end of the week. Love you a mil. Bye.